I very warmly welcome you all to this session, Community and Cultural Heritage, and I would like to say a few words on the project that is behind this session, and also some of the previous sessions that we have had online. And this is originally it's an EU-funded project that is titled Sustainable, Usable and Visible Digital Cultural Heritage Twinning for Excellence. It's an EU Horizon project participated by 4 universities: Tallinn University, University of Amsterdam, Bologna and Turku. And the whole consortium is led by Marek Tam. He's our PI in Tallinn, and Ihab Salul in Amsterdam, and Francesco Mazzucchelli in Bologna. And I'm here from Turku. And this is a particular funding scheme by the EU, and the idea of twinning refers to the fact that it actually brings different institutions together to collaborate, and the aim is to enhance research, in this case in Tallinn University. So that's the main idea of this particular funding. And one of the starting points in this case was the fact that there are 2 major intellectuals that have been working in these universities, namely Juri Lootman, who is a world-famous semiotician and cultural researcher, on the other hand, and then Umberto Eco, who was based in Bologna. And both of these intellectuals have substantial archival collections and, of course, also libraries. And while we had this twinning funding tool, the idea came that we could also try to twin these 2 intellectuals. They are not lookalikes, I can assure you, but they have also both very powerfully influenced humanities and the field where we work. And then the idea was that we could start by digitizing Juri Lootman's collection and use that as a basis for our work on cultural heritage. We have at least 3 goals. On the other hand, first of all, improving research methodologies, try to concentrate on the study of digital cultural heritage, both locally but also nationally and internationally, and try to enhance discussion on the field. And secondly, the idea was to try to create a digital archive, and in this case, try to test how it works with Juri Lootman's collections. And as a third point, it has been important to promote interdisciplinary collaboration, not only within the partner universities, but I think with all of you. And that's why we have had these open sessions for discussion. And I think that's also very valuable for this work and for this field, I would say. The digitization of Juri Lootman's archive have already been going on and is in good progress. And in this sense, what we aim at is to have a broader access to these collections by digitizing those collections, but at the same time conduct research on cultural heritage so that we could do this work consciously of how this applies to the field. And also we are interested in Lootman's thinking itself and which kinds of insights we might get from his work as a cultural researcher, knowing, of course, that that his work is historically situated in the era prior to digitization, but we could also draw on his ideas on cultural theory. We have particular steps now ahead of us, and one of those essential milestones will be the launching of the DIGHT Hub in Tallinn. And that's very near, actually. It will happen 1st of December. So Tallinn will be a hub for this kind of research. It promotes research activities in the field, also offers access to resources, and hopefully will also be a meeting point for scholars in this field in the future. And after that, we aim at opening or launching the prototype of the digital archive, or the twinned digital archive of Juri Lotman and Umberto Eco, but that's something that comes next year. So we are very much looking forward to that. I think this is about what I wanted to say, but if you are interested in our work, you can have a look on the website of DIGHT-Net. In the beginning of December, we don't only have the launching event of the DIGHT Hub, but on the 2nd of December, there will also be an international seminar on digital historicity and what that might involve. And it will be streamed, so you are also very warmly welcome to that event. So thank you so much, and I hope we will have an inspiring session today. I don't know if you ever saw my slides.
Yes, we actually saw them. So thank you so much. And thank you, Hannu, for your introduction to this event. So also I want to welcome you all also on my behalf to this afternoon's session on community and cultural heritage interacting with the digital archive. And we were super lucky to have two top-level experts to talk about communities and cultural heritage from different point of view. And we have, so just to kind of like wrap up or kind of like give you some glimpses of this afternoon's schedule. So first we will have a talk by Professor Anna Sivula from the University of Turku. Then we'll have a 15-minute break. After that, Robin Ekelund, an associate professor from Malmö University, will give his presentation. And after each of these presentations, we will have a short, approximately 15 minutes time for pressing questions for the speakers. But this afternoon will end with a longer Q&A or discussion where I will be asking questions, but this will be open for all the participants to pose questions and discuss this topic together. So feel free to join us here. So okay, so without further ado, I will introduce the first speaker. So Anna Sivula is a professor of cultural heritage and head of the School of History, Culture and Arts at the University of Turku. She's a historian and a historiographer and especially interested in the dynamics of cultural heritage and the social uses of historical knowledge in diverse cultural heritage communities. And Anna Sivula's title today is Digital Heritage Communities. So the floor is yours now, Anna.
Thank you, Mila, and hello, everybody. I try to share my slides. You see them? Okay. Well, Mila already told who I am, so I go straight to my contents. Hello, everybody. I begin with an example of that everyday digital heritage is a mess, even in the professional heritage institutions. Then I say a little something about digital cultural events, how they create kind of places of memory and inspire digital cultural heritage. Then I introduce you some definitions. Then I tell about something about my little theory about how cultural heritage communities actually work, their identities. Then I introduce you an example of the path from the situation before heritization to emergent cultural heritage, and the path ends in established cultural heritage. In the end, I say something about how digital heritage meets born digital heritage and other cultural heritages of digital age. And this is the example of the everyday digital mess in a typical art museum archive. I visited the archive yesterday. It was the Art Museum of Pori, Finland. It's a medium-sized art museum with several regional and national obligations or responsibilities. They had this desk with the label all the other recordings, and in this desk they had VHS cassettes, mini DVDs, mini discs, compact cassettes, micro cassettes, and so on, and every possible kind of floppies and other kinds of discs. And they were quite sad about that they had no tools to open or list or convert them. They had no extra resources they would have needed to convert these recordings. And what was not funny, but scary, was that they had these recordings included some original works of digital art, and actually they were illegal copies of them because those copies were made for exhibition purposes, and these professionals of digital heritage, actually professionals of cultural heritage, did not have a slightest idea what to do with those illegal copies. So this is the grassroots level of what's happening in digital archiving, and they are trying to manage the problems. Yeah, but I'm not going to talk about this any longer. Just wanted to show you the grassroots level of the problem. This is another reality of digital cultural heritage. The picture was taken from the assembly meeting at 2019. Actually, what was going on in the assembly meeting was not that it had been an event of digital cultural heritage. It was an event of contemporary digital culture. And this is something that we always have to separate in the beginning of our research on digital cultural heritage, because we have the context of digital culture, and there's a lot of things going on there, but not all what happens in the digital culture is about digital cultural heritage. Then something about the cultural heritage communities. I don't speak a lot about UNESCO and World Heritage politics because I think that from the point of view of national level, which I'm most interested in, the Council of Europe Framework Convention on the Value of Cultural Heritage for Society, the so-called FARA Convention, is more important because it regulates the European heritage politics, sets framework to European national cultural heritage strategies. And I am also very interested in national cultural heritage strategies because they really regulate national cultural heritage politics. And if you're interested in, you find the Finland's quite recent cultural heritage strategy in this address, and it's also there in English. But the convention has some very important definitions of cultural heritage and heritage community. According to FARA Convention, cultural heritage is a group of resources inherited from the past which people identify independently of ownership as a reflection and expression of their constantly evolving values, beliefs, knowledges, and traditions. It includes all aspects of the environment resulting from interaction between people and places for time. This is from word to word, also in the Finnish national cultural heritage strategy. So it is important in our strategy. And the other, and even a bit more important definition here is the definition of heritage community, according to which heritage community consists of people who value specific aspects of cultural heritage and so on. Actually, yeah, I saw it. Specific aspects of cultural heritage which they wish within the framework of public action to sustain and transmit to future generations. Then we go straight to digital cultural heritage, and it becomes a little bit more complicated because digital cultural heritage refers to both digital born cultural heritage with no original outside the digital world and digitized cultural heritage, which in most cases have some kind of original which has been digitized in outside of the digital. And here is example of the use of the term, and this is also from Finnish Ministry of Education. The digital cultural heritage is constantly accumulating and growing richer with the with the emergence of new digital cultural heritage material, as well as the digitization of old materials and information resources. This is where we are in Finnish politics of digital cultural heritage today. My research on digital cultural heritage communities showed me that there are two types of digital cultural heritage communities. Type 1 are online cultural heritage communities who are perhaps not at all interested in digital born contents and who use the digitized contents to safeguard something that exists outside of the digital world. So, in so-called real life. Then there is the type 2, which are the communities that value digital as such. And then, of course, as always in reality, there are different hybrids for type 1 and type 2. And this is an example of the type 1. This is from the site I created when I was researching a municipal local history of the Finnish municipality of Eura, which is located in Western Finland. And I used these small sites to collect some information from the inhabitants of the municipality. And they were very useful, but I noticed that these 5 little sites got together 5 small cultural heritage communities, which was quite interesting. What they did on the site, they shared photographs, they shared memories, and they asked questions about their own past. And of course, I gathered the knowledge and used it in my writing of the local history. So this was type 1. Then, however, there is also this type 2 of digital heritage community. And I call this this is the so-called demoskene, the art of coding community. And the demoskene community is well known about its effort to bring the demoskene to the UNESCO World Heritage List. So far, demoskene has not entered to the UNESCO World Heritage List, but it ended up in Finland to the national list of intangible heritage. And after it has done this in Finland, it ended up to the same kind of list in Sweden and in Switzerland and in Poland, in Germany too. And this heritage community is safeguarding the art of the coding. And I think that behind the motivation behind this goal is that they are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to ruin the human art of coding. So the art of coding is considered to be one of those important intangible cultural heritages, a typical one to be safeguarded by UNESCO. The process is still going on. Digital heritage communities are inclusive. What is important is that they are mixed and inclusive communities. Ordinary people, amateurs, and academic work their identities in the same heritage communities. There's a lot of bottom-up activity, but also a lot of top-down activity interacting in these communities. I noticed that participation of museum staff, members of the Board of Antiquities of Finland, and other cultural heritage professionals was very common in heritage communities. And they were not there only to give some top-down information, they were there participating. And also in my case studies, which are involved, have mostly been involved with industrial heritages, digital heritages, and heritages of local municipalities in southern and western Finland. There were no specific heritage communities of indigenous groups because, well, I had no examples from the area populated by Salmi people. That's the first reason, and the other reason is that cultural heritage communities, industrial heritages, digital heritages, and actually of local municipalities, they don't get involved with this kind of members of heritage communities. What does a cultural heritage community actually do? It safeguards places of memory. I took this definition, this term from the French historian Pierre Nora. The places of memory in my theory, they are traces of past, intangible, tangible, or digital heritage objects. They are safeguarded as evidence of shared history. And the term shared history comes from Professor Jorma Kalela from his book, Making History, something like 10 years ago. The cultural heritage community safeguards the places of memory. It strengthens the sense of historical togetherness. And third, it consolidates the sense of belonging and an ownership-like feeling. The feeling like they own the place of memory. And this has nothing to do with the legal ownership. It's a feeling of ownership. And this kind of feeling is also described in the Convention of Paro, and it's referred to as a slogan, cultural heritage belongs to everyone. And when I was first, it was at least 10 years ago, trying to understand what heritage community does and how does it function, I thought this was when, and I still think it's kind of useful to those who try to understand what is happening in the heritage community. First, we have some kind of tangible, intangible, or digital trace of past. It doesn't have any meaning to the heritage community unless it is connected to the shared histories of the heritage community, and the shared histories then are made the own stories of the members of heritage community through the participant experiences. So I coined 3 terms and tried to describe 3 types of identity work these members of heritage community are doing, and I thought that this identity work is the activity that keeps the heritage community alive. First, there was monumentalizing identity work, then historicizing identity work, and the third was the possessive identity work. The monumentalizing identity work was the activity that was happened between the shared histories and the phases of memory. Then what it contained the safeguarding of the cultural object and practices as evidence of history, the shared history. Monumentalization was not only related to the nice, victorious, or glorious histories, and that is why we have things like dark heritages, negative heritages, and also contested heritages. The activity was both top-down and bottom-up, and the authorized heritage discourse by Laura Jane Smith, who joined in 2006, represented the top-down activity, but there were also those emergent heritages from bottom-up. I would like to say that the active heritage community can be observed only in the middle, this tiny little triangle here in the middle of the classic vein. When some type of identity work doesn't exist, then actually the heritage community doesn't act anymore. So this was the monumentalizing identity work. Then there was this identity work of historization, which I already described to be the type of identity work that makes the shared histories, that connects the shared histories with the participant experiences. It trains the emotions of the participant reality. It identifies the community's past as our past, and it uses the shared histories. And then there was the third type of identity work the heritage community does, which I kind of named the possession or possessive identity work. And that was connecting the participant experiences to the places of memory. And this possessive identity work is, I think, lying behind this heritage belongs to everyone. It creates the sense of belonging to the place of memory, and it also is a basis to the sense of ownership of the tangible, intangible, or digital object. So here's kind of path from the not yet heritage through emergent heritage to the established. cultural heritage. The path begins from the situation that we have some functioning thing in contemporary cultural context. For example, the art of code. The function weakens, for example, because we don't need so much human coders, because we have artificial intelligence helping us, but still the thing, for example, the art of coding is valid. But as the function weakens, there becomes a little bit fear of loss. You lose this human art of coding. It's kind of a fear of cultural amnesia, and it seems to be very much alike in any process of heritization. Then there begins to be a demand for safeguarding the thing, for example, art of coding, both top down and bottom up. And then there emerges some kind of cultural heritage community that begins its identity work, or historicizing, processing, and monumentalizing the traces of the past. Then the heritage process goes official. We will have, we are not there very much yet with the art of coding, but approaching, there will be more listings, archivings, and other administrative decisions. The art of coding is has get the Demoscene already to the Finland's national intangible heritage list, so we are almost there. Then there will be a lot of commemoration, uses of heritage, and in the end, there is established cultural heritage in contemporary society. This kind of path seems to be visible in every heritage process. We have a couple of minutes, I suppose. In this picture, this is kind of same kind of picture as the picture of the mess in the archive, digital mess in the archive of art museum. This is how actually the digitized heritage is visible in our sources. You can see it's very mixed there. The picture is from 1990, and the boy is playing Commodore 64. And if you can see on the screen, there is digitized pictures of heritage, for example, the Sphinx. In the end, I would like to revisit the Assembly 2009. Is there really some, I would like to ask if there is a cultural heritage community in this picture, or are there just some people we happen to meet? The heritologist Chiara Bortolotti told in her book in 2017 that not everyone who participates in cultural events is a member of a heritage community. It takes a little more to be active promoter of cultural heritage. And in the picture, it is also possible that these people are just participants of a historical event, friends of digital culture, consumers, professionals selling their expertise in the events, students and researchers, some party people, hang-arounds, boyfriends, girlfriends, or just people in the wrong place. And it's been said that getting hands on the members of heritage community is very, very difficult, but yet we can say that there is no cultural heritage without the heritage community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anna. Yes, excellent, excellent presentation. Yes, I think that there were so many interesting points that you made. So now I think that we have this approximately 15 minutes that we can use for a discussion and asking questions from Anna. And you can either raise your hand and ask your question, or you can also type your question to the chat, and then we can see that there as well. But yes, please feel free to ask any questions, or if you have some comments. If nobody has super pressing questions that they really want to shoot right away, so perhaps I can take the privilege as the host and ask the first question. Just to give a background, so my background is in cultural history, but like heritage communities and digital heritage communities are a new topic for me. So I think that I learned a lot even during this first presentation. I learned more than I have learned this whole week. So I'm super happy. Thank you so much, Anna. So interesting. And I think what was very interesting for me to actually to start to think that who are the people who make this community, and actually that there are these hang-around participants, hang-around members, and also maybe we can also think about, because you might be also a member of a community for a short time. So how long perhaps we can also ask for how long you need to be a member in order to be counted as a member, because I assume that these cultural heritage communities are fluid and temporarily changing and so on. So that was maybe, yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on this, but like a reflection. I also found very interesting this kind of like different types of activities that you have identified in these different heritage communities. And I was just wondering if particularly in this particular study that you made, did you come across with certain like differences of the types of activities within those communities that are kind of more focusing on the ordinary cultural heritage and not so much interested in the digital or the digital heritage, vis-a-vis those heritage communities that are particularly into digital heritage, like this the Demoskene community that you discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mila. These are tricky questions, actually, and difficult. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to comment the fluidity of the heritage community. You're absolutely right. It's the heritage community is something that acts a bit like society in good old Durkheimian sociology. We have individuals who come and go and change, incomers, outgoers, and the society keeps on going because it fulfills the functions as. So you're absolutely right. The members of the heritage community are, from the point of view of the heritage community itself, not so important as individuals as long as the activities of the heritage community exist somehow. Did I answer the question well? Or at least reflect your idea. The other question was concerned with the differences of the two different types of digital heritage community, the online community, which is safeguarding, for example, some nice 200 years old building, or and the digital heritage community that is not actually necessarily acting online, but is safeguarding something that is digital. And the answer to your question is that I haven't so far, neither have my students, found very much differences between the functioning of these two types of heritage communities, which is not interesting, but less interesting. Because from my point of view, I think we have understood something about how the heritage community works.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I can see that Hannu has written a comment on the chat because his connection is unstable. So, Hannu, do you want to try to read your question, or shall I?
I can try. Sorry, it was like difficult to see how this works. But anyway, thank you so much, Anna. I think there were so many important points and lessons for us. And I was just wondering that also these kinds of research projects that aim at digitizing content, they are also heritage communities, although not always aware of it. And I was just wondering if you have any good advice of how to be more conscious of this aspect, or how to reflect on this.
Absolutely, this is a good question, because in the introductory part of your research, whether it is doctoral dissertation or anything else, you have to open this in methodological process. And make it very clear that you have used this kind of site, or however you do it, for to gather information of the activities of the heritage community. And also you should reflect that when you are doing this, you actually take part in the creation of the heritage community. You're responsible for the board of new heritage community. So after your project, you have to somehow either give the site to the participants for their use, or provide them some services. And actually yesterday was the last time I got from one of these small sites a question, of a person who wanted a note photograph of her grandmother, which was used in the history of municipality of Oiva. Well, she got it. So this kind of method, it creates a responsibility.
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
this, did I answer your question? Then there seems to be a question from Stefan.
Yes. So I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to read it, or shall I maybe?
I can read it as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have a question coming. My background is in digital media memory studies, so I'm particularly interested in the digitization process between and the gap, that perhaps also literacy gap, that is created when heritage gets digitized, and it provides all these options and availabilities for studying heritage, for accessing it. However, it doesn't always involve taking with you the group that actually uses and is interested in that heritage. So I was thinking about your research on municipalities. Have you also come across like tensions between the communities trying to access digitized heritage and the institutes who aim to digitize their heritage?
In my municipality research, I didn't, and in particular, I haven't, but I know what you're talking about. Do you have any idea of how this kind of situation or problems that are related to this kind of conflict can be solved?
Yeah, well, I think particularly in like genealogical research, where or people are heavily invested in the research they're doing and the places they're visiting, and they're very important. And also looking at when people actually conduct that type of research and are actually involved in those type of communities, at least the ones that I came across, people tend to be a bit older, and so that doesn't always match with digitization strategies of institutions who want to digitize everything, make everything accessible, but then leave out technical skills and the communities that actually use those archives, for instance, or those visit those places, or if that makes sense.
In my project, older people were those who took part in the site activities were, well, if I say that they were on the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s. But they were extremely capable with the social media environment. I think they were true social media natives.
But because what I was wondering now with especially in archives, with everything being machine readable, and that you can actually search text, that also requires citizen historians or heritage communities to acquire data literacies that actually extend beyond like historical literacies, or so it's actually an entire new package of skills required of a group, which may also find digital digital archives challenging on its own.
I think it requires more human eyes.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for your thoughts.
So now it's 15 past, and I think that we can gradually continue our workshop for today. And so the next speaker is Robin Ekelund. And Robin is an associate professor and senior lecturer in history at Malmö University in Sweden. His research focuses on contemporary memory and history practices, historical culture and uses of the past, with a specific focus on digital and social media. Using netographic fieldwork and interviews, he investigates how digital technology and social media affects how people engage with the past, and what and how they remember, and how they experience social media platforms as spaces for sharing memories and representations of the past. And the title of Robin's talk today is Memory Practices in and Beyond Retrospective Facebook Groups. So the floor is yours, Robin.
Okay, thank you, Mila. And I hope you can hear me all right, everyone. I'm just going to rearrange my Zoom window so I can have some view of you as well. Okay, yes. So I'm going to talk about my research, and thank you very much for inviting me to have the opportunity to talk about my research. And it's going to be sort of like a micro case study that I present in relation to Anna's broader talk on digital heritage culture. But it's also going to connect very well in some senses to Anna's talk, specifically in how you emphasize that what digital heritage communities do is safeguarding places of memory, and how it strengthens a sense of historical togetherness and belonging, and a sense of ownership in relation to places of memory and history and specific aspects of the past. That very, very well connects to much of my research that I've been doing when I've focused in on Facebook groups. So I should start by saying that I was trained both in ethnology and in history, and in my research I tried to make a point of bridging these two academic disciplines by using methods such as fieldwork, observations, and qualitative interviews, while exploring historical questions such as how people make use of the past and how history and memory affects people in their everyday life. So I'm very much coming into these questions with an interest in history from below. And my research interest lies, just as Mila said in the presentation, in how the technological and digital developments affect contemporary memory culture and uses of the past, like how connections and relationships between the past and the present are made, how they are shared, how they are negotiated within a contemporary post-digital society. And this is what I will be talking about today. So I began my own research on what I would call digital memory practices. I won't mention the term heritage many times, maybe just once at the end. So I will talk about digital memory instead, because that's the field that I went into, digital memory studies. When I, in 2019, started a 2-year part-time postdoc project. And the purpose of this project was to investigate the production of history and memories in digital communities created by a history-interested public, like history from below then. And I used netnography as my method, which is a way of conducting fieldwork online by qualitatively studying and following interactions online and the data that is produced by people in their use of online communities and online forums. And I selected 6 different, what I call retrospective Facebook groups. And I followed and studied them for a year. And I call them retrospective because they were created with the intention of bringing people together to share and to discuss aspects of the past. And that results in a blend of personal memories and more general historical facts and stories. So it's a blend of memory and history within these groups. But the main intention with them is to bring people together to look backwards in time to a specific part of the past. And when I conducted a pilot study, I found that 3 types of retrospective Facebook groups, at least in 2018, this is back in 2018, I found 3 different types of retrospective Facebook groups that were, at least according to my researchers, very common. Firstly, those who focus on a particular historical decade, such as memories from the 1950s. Secondly, those who are interested in the past of a particular place or a particular city, such as memories from our old Malmö. And thirdly, those who have a more open and general historical interest and are discussing the history of, let's say, Sweden or Europe, or maybe even a larger scale. And I won't talk too much about this postdoc project today, but I just shortly want to touch on one of my main findings from this research. Mostly, well, one of the findings was that there is a lot of nostalgia going around in these groups. Some of these groups even have nostalgic or nostalgia as a word in the group name. And so it's not surprising, but there is also people and subgroups within these groups that have some kind of knowledge desire that wants to explore the past beyond the sharing of nostalgic content. But for those people, Facebook as a platform works against them because they need more space, they need more words to write with, and that doesn't really work within the logics of the platform of Facebook. But that's not really the point that I wanted to make now. So mostly I found that the memory practices and the interactions in the groups could be described as a production of instant memories. The logic of Facebook is based on newness, speed, and immediacy. And this gives these groups' memory practices a hurried and fragmented character. So the memory practices seem to be produced for the very instant in which the post is made, and also for an instant response from other group members. Most evidently in people wanting other people to hit the like button, because then you get your content liked and it gets more visible in the flow of posts in the groups. And connecting to this, another more personal and existential result of the postdoc project was that I grew more and more disenchanted, critical and pessimistic towards social media and the new and so-called digital memory ecology. And such disenchantment and pessimism have been discussed in academic terms as a post-digital condition. And in the field of digital memory studies, it has been highlighted, maybe in particular through the conceptualizations of historian and sociologist Andrew Hoskins, who has argued that memory is ontologically not the same anymore, that we have reached the end of collective memory and that we are witnessing the graying of memories. So my own feelings of pessimism were very much in line with the trajectory of the research field as well. However, from this disenchantment, I also grew more and more interested in finding out what these members, these people who join these retrospective groups, what they actually think about the practices, because they spend a lot of time in the groups. They spend a lot of time finding stuff to post and share and to discuss in the groups. So what do they think about these practices? What do they think about the constant flow of nostalgic content? And what do they think of the logics of the platform and how the interface and the algorithms shape and steer them towards specific types of interactions? And these questions are more in line with a more constructive version of the concept of post-digital, which is to explore and investigate digital technologies as embedded in contemporary everyday life. So based on this, I began a new research phase in which I switched to conducting qualitative, semi-structured interviews with members of retrospective Facebook groups. So previously I just followed what was happening in the Facebook groups, but now I started to contact people and asking if I could interview them. And it is this second research phase that I will talk about in more detail today. But first I would like to say something about the research field of digital memory studies overall. Since I began following this field, digital memory studies, it has grown and expanded in several directions. And as an historian, I am used to things moving quite slowly rather than quickly. But in the case of digital memory studies, which is a highly interdisciplinary field, it is quite difficult, at least for me, to keep up with all the constant production of new concepts, theories, and trends. So it's a very interesting field to try to follow, but it's also, at least for me, difficult to grasp. Still, I think it might be safe to say that one of the main trajectories in the field is a growing post-human interest in how the agency of memory has and still is moving more and more towards non-human actors, such as interfaces, apps, algorithms, and AI. And there's now very many publications on AI and memory. There's a special collection in Memory Minded Media rolling out new articles the whole time on this specific issue. And this produces even closer attention to digital apps, digital platforms, and digital technologies as socio-technical actors, and that enable, shape, and interfere in the everyday memory culture of humans. And I will get back to this and develop on it in a couple of minutes. Then a correlating trajectory in the field is that of digital methodology. In the last couple of years, we've seen more and more calls for research within the field, which traditionally has been conceptually driven and of a qualitative character, to move towards a digital methodology where computer-assisted readings of large quantities of data seem to be the way forward. And one of the main arguments for this that I have found is that such methods allow for us researchers to move beyond the logics of the platform. And among others, Mila argues for a more platform-centric approach and a less user-centric approach. I find these trajectories very important and very interesting, but it's not how I have trajected myself in my research to try to understand what is happening in so-called digital memory culture. Instead, I have retreated to more traditional, qualitative, and human-centric approaches. In this case, by conducting interviews. And my main argument for this method is that it enables me to explore memory as some kind of hybrid phenomena. And when I talk about hybrid and hybridity, I talk sort of inspired by Samuel Merrill and Simon Lindgren's discussion of digital culture or contemporary culture as some kind of more and less digital culture. So I think about this both in how the online and the offline intersects and reroutes each other, and in terms of how human and non-human agency intersect and affect each other. And I've used the interviews that I've conducted as a way to encourage the interviewees to reflect on how it is to connect, how it is to share memories and stories about the past on Facebook, and how these digital practices connect to their offline memory work as well. So I'm trying to zoom in on these very hybrid aspects of the practice with my interviews. In the following, I would like to reflect on what the hybrid perspective and interest has added to my research on contemporary memory culture on Facebook, and to my understanding of all this. I will first talk very briefly about some theoretical and methodological starting points. Then I will touch on some of the key concepts regarding the so-called new memory ecology. And then I will move on to highlighting, I think it is 4 ways in which this hybrid perspective has added to, and in a sense challenged, both my own thoughts on the retrospective Facebook groups and also my thoughts on the ideas of a new memory ecology. Theoretically, I have been inspired by Deborah Lapton's concept of data selves and doing data that she presents in this book here, Data Selves. And in this approach, it sees the entanglements of people and technology as an existential question. And the experiences of doing data, or what I call, in my case, in my studies, doing memory data, they become practices that are simultaneously entangled, shared, and personal. So doing memory data focuses on understanding the performances, the enactments, and sense-making when people engage with the data in relation to digital settings. And this perspective also sees digital data as highly material, given that the digital is always generated through material devices, materialized in ways and formats that, using Lapton's word, invite human sensory responses and have material effects on human bodies. And regarding my method and data for this second phase of research, I conducted 9 interviews with 9 people. 5 of them were men, 4 women, and they were all aged between 64 and 71. And they were also all very active members of their retrospective Facebook groups that I found them through, in that they make posts, they repeatedly comment, they like, and they are active in the group discussions. And some of the groups that I've studied and followed, they have 10,000 members, 15,000 members. One of them even have 17,000 members, but there's always a core of members, maybe say between 20 and 50 people who you see repeatedly being engaged and active and visible in these groups. And the 9 interviewees that I selected are among those core members of their respective Facebook groups. And it is important to remember that the interviewees are certainly not representative of the average social media user. Still, and based on my research, I would still argue that they might be said to be representative of many of those who turn to Facebook with a particular interest in sharing memories of the past and in joining specific groups, just share memories and stories of the past. In Andrew Hoskins' discussion of a new memory ecology, there are many concepts and conceptualizations, but I find two of these of particular interest, and I want to bring them to attention here today. The first is sharing without sharing. And with this concept, Hoskins argues that people, they might feel active when they post, when they record, and when they react to digital content. But he argues that many do so compulsively. Sharing has become a digitally fostered and unconscious practice, he argues. That digital memory practices happen without any real intent or goal, and that they become a continuous end in itself, with no prospect of arrival, settlement, or completion coming into view. And this is something that he writes in a publication from 2017. And this idea of a sharing without sharing is closely connected to the concept of grey memories. Hoskins argues that in the new memory ecology, how we experience our personal memories has become blurred and obscured. Our memories have turned grey because we have no longer any control over where they are, how they are displayed, and to what end. So this fosters a pretty pessimistic view again on digital memory culture and what happens to our ways of remembering and sharing memories. And this pessimism hasn't gone unchallenged. But after having conducted my first research phase on the retrospective Facebook groups, I was very ready to sign on to these ideas and thoughts. I myself felt pessimistic about the memory practices on Facebook, and they felt messy. To connect back to Anna's talk again, they felt superficial, and for me as an historian, they felt overly nostalgic. Now I'll go back. But adapting a hybrid perspective has nuanced my understanding of the retrospective groups. And in what follows, I will attempt to offer an empirically based assessment on the ideas of a sharing without sharing and grey memories. I will now move on to highlighting and discussing 4 ways in which the hybrid perspective has added to my understanding of all this. And please regard these 4 points of 4 ways as very tentative, because I just put them together for this very presentation. So I haven't written down these as in an article or some kind of publication yet. Okay, so out of the 9 interviewees, 8 of them talked about having inherited boxes and binders of photos, postcards, newspaper clips, and diaries from their parents and ancestors. They also talked about these binders and boxes as having inherited a weight, a burden, and a responsibility. And at first, they didn't really know, they said, how to carry this burden, this weight. Lotta argued that she felt the weight of history, that memories and history is important. It's memories from generations back, and I think it feels more and more important. And Bertil, who stood out among the interviewees, since he described that he has 30 moving boxes of stuff from his father and grandfather stored in his basement. And he said, I was almost on the verge of starting to throw them out, but then Facebook appeared. So listening to the interviewees, it appears that the materiality of these objects, of these memory objects, the binders, the photo albums, and the large size of the boxes that take up considerable space in their houses and flats, that these material objects have a sensory and material effect on them. The memory practices that they carry out in this online fora therefore did not start by joining a retrospective Facebook group, but rather the groups provided the interviewees with an outlet. The groups gave them an opportunity to do something with the material that they already had. The groups gave them a way to unburden themselves, and this connects in a sense to Anna's talk, and where you touched on this sense of ownership. But here is an actual ownership. They own these boxes. They have them in their homes, and as long as they just keep them in the boxes, they are mute. They are silent. So that produces this burden and sense of responsibility in relation to this actual ownership of memory stuff. But then, they explain, they soon started running out of stuff to publish in the groups, because the mechanisms of Facebook and its newness principle makes the process of sharing memories very fast and very easy. You can upload hundreds of things on a single day if you want to. So in a sense then, the retrospective groups quickly played out its role because they had entered into them. They had become members of the groups to be able to share their memories. But then after a while, they had shared all their memories. But then the weight and responsibility of having inherited boxes of memories seemed to be replaced by a weight and responsibility of keeping the retrospective Facebook group alive. The interviewees talked about feeling committed to the groups, and being afraid that the memories, the knowledge, and the stories that they and others had shared in the groups would disappear. So engaging and sharing memories in the groups resulted for several of the interviewees in an emotive relationship, not only with the past and the memories that that they and other people share, but with the social media group itself. Because what would happen if the social media group disappeared? Everything that they had shared would be lost, gone. So that produces a constant hunt for new memory data to post. And the interviewees, a couple of them, describe themselves as detectives in their hunt for new memories to share in the group. So being active in the groups takes up a large part of their everyday life. And I talk to people who are in retirement, so they have time on their hands, most of them. And being part of the group takes up time during their everyday life, even when they are not online, even when they are not actually on the platform. And this, in a sense, connects to Hoskins's idea, or we can connect it to Hoskins's idea of sharing without sharing, that the connective turn has meant that digital memory practices become a continuous end in itself. The affordances and the logics of the platform and the effective relationship that these people have built with the groups means that they keep on sharing without any real prospect of completion, because the goal becomes to keep the group alive, and then they just have to keep sharing new stuff to keep the group active and alive. Still, in their search for more material, for more memory data, they talk about visiting museums, going to archives, visiting the local library. They go on guided tours. They attend open lectures, and they explore secondhand shops. They also search the internet, they consult Wikipedia, and they access digital archive collections. So the ways in which the interviewees go about their memory practice illustrate still a carefulness and a focus which challenges the idea of a sharing without sharing. The result of the continuous flow of new, old memories posted in the groups can be seen as a quantification of memories, an abundance of memories. And one way of dealing with these quantities, with this abundance of memories, is that some interviewees try to make their own posts as qualitative and significant as possible, as a way to make them stand out in the flow of content. For example, Anders, who during the interview made a point of showing me his scanner. And I've seen scanners before, so it wasn't actually very interesting. But then when I went back to the interview and listened back to it, I found that this was very important to him, because it made him able to share the focus and attention to detail that he puts down in making his posts in the Facebook group. He described to me that he made sure to scan his old photographs and postcards with the highest quality, even if it takes a hell of a time, because his scanner works very slowly when he sets it to the highest quality possible. And he said that, yes, with these pictures, you really want to get it right, because you must be able to zoom in and see the details. You have to be able to see more, because potentially then you could recognize a person or something else. And Anders' strategy is to make sure that the old photos he shares is of as excellent image quality as possible. He adjusts the light, he adjusts the color tone and the image definition. And during the interview, he also informed me that this slow and tedious work pays off. He described and showed to me that several times his posts had received many comments and also questions from other group members, since, in his word, they had been able to look more deeply into the past through his photos. So for Anders, the scanner becomes an important material agent, both for his own memory practices and for his relationship with the Facebook group and the constant speed and quantities of the platform. And this is just one example, but it still illustrates that the members of these retrospective groups, at least those who are active in the groups, repeatedly active, they labor to make their own memory practices qualitative and meaningful within the digital platform of Facebook. And it also illustrates that much of this is done in the hybridity in between the offline and the online, between the physical and the digital. Repeatedly, the interviewees also talked about the groups as archives. They had this metaphor of the archive for the groups. Ulla, for example, described her group as a wonderful little archive of pictures from the past of the city. And Hans and Anders both referred to their practices, or to the practices in their respective groups, as archival work. And that the groups were also discussed and described as collections. And the concepts of the archive and the collection is, of course, common in memory culture and heritage studies. And these concepts, they bring with them a sense of order and systematicity. But they might not work so well in relation to a social media platform like Facebook, which curates the flow of content by constantly personalizing and updating it based on what it understands as relevant, interesting, and hot. Specifically for you, and you. Everyone receives a personalized flow of content. And this connects to the messiness of digital heritage culture that Anna also talked about, but here not so much about the different formats that we have to try to deal with and translate between each other, but rather the messiness of how we can actually store things online, and in particular on Facebook in my case. And when I asked the interviewees how they experienced the interface and the groups' timelines, several of them said that they had not noticed this or thought about it. And this is not surprising, because algorithms are supposed to be barely noticeable. And there I used a phrase from Taina Bushaw, and also because the interviewees' digital literacy could be described as low, to make it short. Nevertheless, when I explicitly asked them about it, they recognized that the group content and its timeline often seem elusive to them. It was difficult to really follow what was happening in the timeline. Some of the interviewees started reflecting on techniques and strategies that they had almost subconsciously developed in order to make their encounters with the groups more systematic and organized. Christina talked about taking screenshots as a technique to save specific posts, to be able to find them later. But this also seemed to work as a method for her to categorize and organize the data, because once she had taken a screenshot of it, she was able to sort it and into specific albums on her phone, so that she could retrace specific topics that had been introduced and discussed in the groups. And in a way that, and this is not possible within the Facebook groups, because you can't collect and sort the data yourself like this. So you have to download it or store it in another way. Another of the interviewees, Eric, said that he had noticed that it was difficult to maintain the systematicity that he envisioned. And in the interview, he emphasized that he wanted to keep a systematic order with his posts. And this, he described, included both a thematic order and a chronological order of the postcards that he was currently going through, of which you can see see a photo here. But this order was erased as soon as his postcards were shared, he said. And he did not really seem upset about this. He said that this is just the way that Facebook works. But he stressed to me that the sorting of the photos and the postcards was important to him. And he showed me his bookshelves and cabinets filled with binders and folders and albums of all the material that he had gone through and sorted and categorized chronologically and thematically. Here you can see postcards of streets from a specific part of his hometown. So he had them selected and chronologically ordered in his binders. So this act of carefully sorting the physical data, of going through boxes of memory stuff, of categorizing and putting scanned material in specific folders on one's computer or phone, was something all the interviewees talked about as important to them. Sorting and categorizing is thus an integral aspect of these memory practices. But this sorting and categorizing takes place primarily outside of the retrospective group and the interface and the platform. And again, this illustrates how these individuals strive to maintain control and some sense of ownership over their memories, over how they are stored, and how they are ordered, even if they have very little control over this on the digital platform. You are probably all familiar with the argument that Facebook is a platform that encourages a culture of likes and positive, effective feedback loops. The argument is that Facebook is a place you go to in order to be confirmed and recognized by others. And this connects to my interest in these memory practices. During my interview with Peter, he told me with a smile on his face that his son hates being out in the city with him. And then he paused. He was clearly not upset or worried about this, and he went silent so that I could ask him, why so? And then he said, because he can't stand that I get stopped all the time by people who want to talk to me and want to ask me questions. With as much time as I've spent learning things through the group about the city and its past, I could hold guided city tours. So the smile on Peter's face then was an expression of pride and joy of being recognized as someone who knows a lot about a specific part of the past. And here are some other excerpts from the interviews going into the same point here. So for members of these groups who are very active in sharing memories and commenting on the posts of others, such as the interviewees for my study, the groups become display windows where the memory practices and their knowledge about the past becomes visible, and through which they can receive recognition from others. So both offline and online, they receive likes, they receive comments, they receive questions. And then the online recognition is mostly configured through the platform's logic of quantification, the metrification of likes and comments. The offline realizations are of a different character. Hearing your name being called out, meeting people eye to eye and talking to them directly. There's a physical and bodily experience and a synchronicity in this recognition that seems to be very central for these interviewees. And it seems that it is beyond the Facebook groups that the interviewees find a profound sense of meaning in what they do, but it's also very much connected to what they do on Facebook. So I've gone on a bit too long. I can see now when I look at my watch, I'm sorry for that, Mila. I'll just do some very short conclusions. So by approaching the memory practices of these interviewees, these individuals, as hybrid phenomena, by looking at how online and offline practices connect and reroute each other, and by investigating how the agency of humans and non-humans intersect, I hope my presentation has illustrated how these experiences and memory practices both emphasize and at the same time challenge the idea of a connective turn and an ontological shift in contemporary memory culture. It is clear that there are graying effects within the logics of Facebook that shapes both which memories are shared and how memories are shared. This is something that interviewees struggle with. In a sense, they lose control over the online memory practices that they so consciously seek to carry out. And therefore they constantly labor both to make their own memories meaningful and keep them meaningful, and to keep up with the logic of the platform. And I hope this presentation also sheds light on the agency that the interviewees exercise in pushing back against the graying effects of the social media platform. The materiality and physicality of much of the hybrid memory practices work as compasses that help the interviewees find and maintain some kind of direction, some kind of agency and a sense of focus in their practices. So to sum up everything very shortly, investigating digital memory practices as not only digital, but as hybrid is a fruitful way of studying contemporary memory culture, public history, cultural heritage, and uses of the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a rich and exciting presentation. Again, so many thoughts and questions as well. Now I think that we have time for one question before we will have a break. And I see that there is a question by Pekka Salosari in the chat. And I was wondering, do you, Pekka, want to read the question by yourself?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the excellent presentation. It was most interesting. I'm more thinking about this a bit a in a big picture. And I was wondering, have you considered the future of this memory, these communities and their actions, how they will be preserved in the future? And I was thinking about the pure as a pure legal agreement between the users and the company Meta. So I think myself, I'm thinking about this now and then. What happens to all this content in the future?
Yeah.
As I understood, the Meta owns, in terms of legal agreement, the content now. So should we be concerned about the how the business is going for Meta, so that they won't go bankrupt? Or should society do something, perhaps a EU or some other countries or somebody, in order to kind of secure the longevity and continuity of this this action and all this content? Thank you.
Thank you for a very good question. And my answer to the question is yes. Yes, we should be worried about the future. I myself, on a personal basis, is very worried about the future at the moment, not only in regards to Facebook and social media groups and how that shapes and interferes in everyday life, but also in relation to the longevity that you mentioned of these groups and the memories and all the content and rich data that they've shared. I think also, yes, there should maybe be some kind of initiative in trying to safeguard this data, but I'm not sure how that would work, because it's I'm not very up to date with these questions, but Meta seems to be a very difficult branch to work with. Yeah, so I'm not sure how that would work. But I could also say, that the interviewees, some of them are worried about these things themselves as well. I talked about them being worried about not keeping the group alive, and some of them have even thought about this in terms of what happens. I'm the group admin, I'm the group creator. What happens if I pass? And if my children don't want to see my Facebook account anymore and they go in and delete that, then everything disappears, then the group is no more, and everything that I've shared is not visible for others anymore. Of course, Meta has it somewhere on their servers probably, but who knows what they want to do with it. So they are worried for the longevity of the groups and for these for the social media platform and how it works. But they, as I said, they hadn't really thought too much about these questions. Most of them, this came to them when I asked them specific questions, like not exactly this question that you were asking me, but when I tried to ask them about what do you think about how Facebook works, what you see and what you don't see, can you find posts again if you want to retrace them? And then they started to think about these issues. But they have turned to Facebook mostly because it is very easy to use, and it's very easy to share your content, and it is very easy to be liked by others. So this easiness, this fluidity of just having, you can bring up a picture from a photo album on your desk, take a photo of it, click on the Facebook app, and then it's shared in the group. And that is difficult to challenge and to really think beyond that, because it's just easy. And yeah, but it's a very stressing question that you're asking, and I hope I gave some kind of answer to it.
Thank you. And well, in worst case, the photo is still there when the digital version is gone.
All right. So now it's time for our last 45-minute slot, and I'm wondering if Anna is already back, or if we should wait for. Okay, yes, here I can see Anna was and is here again. Yes, great. All right. So thank you so much for both of these very rich and informative presentations, and at least I have a lot of new information, new thoughts, and questions. And it was actually very interesting to see how these two talks actually very nicely come together. So I think that there were a lot of kind of like similarities there. But I think that as Robin, you had this question for Anna at the end of her talk. So I was wondering, would you like to ask your question first, and then we can move on from that?
Maybe we can try at least. So my question was, because I knew that I was going to talk about like this messiness of digital memory culture, and you talked about the messiness of digital cultural heritage. And when you talked about the messiness, I understood it as being about these different formats, like having old floppy disks and VHS cassettes, and not being able to listen to or open them anymore, and not being able to. Was that the main point on messiness, or do you see another kind of messiness also in digital cultural heritage?
Of course, that was the material messiness of the different formats of storage in digital culture. But you really inspired me with your mental messiness, and I wonder if your Facebook groups had more messiness in their digital reality than mine, because these local historical Facebook groups of mine, they were aware of that they were, volunteer research assistants. They were aware of that they were taking part to the writing of local history. But if I understood correctly, those messy groups of yours, they were just archiving anything, publishing and archiving anything they got their hands on. I don't know if I'm asking something, but that was my impression.
Yeah, but they're not really archiving anything and everything, because they try to keep. They talk about trying to keep the topic going. So if there is a group, let's say on memories from the 1960s, people tell each other as soon as, okay, no, this is from the 1970s. This shouldn't be in this group. So this kind of boundary work all the time. Well, then as long as something connects to the 1960s and the group is about the 1960s, it can be put there. So there's both this carefulness and attention to detail and focus within these groups, but also they need to find new stuff to post for the groups to stay active, for people to keep going into them, to keep sharing and liking. So I think that's very much due to like how Facebook works. And I think the messiness that I talked about is mostly because of how Facebook personalizes and curates the flow of content. That, because I experienced this myself when I was doing the ethnographic field work. I was looking at a Facebook group, And then it was lunchtime, and I went and had my lunch, and then I came back to the computer, and I could not find the post that I had been looking at before lunch, because I hadn't had time to write down or take a screenshot of it, and therefore I couldn't relocate it. I found it later because it just popped up again. Maybe because someone had liked it, or there was a new discussion in the comments regarding it, because then Facebook understands it as hot and relevant again, and then it gets pushed up and becomes more visible in the flow of content. And that is one part of the messiness that they struggle with, and that I struggled with when I was doing ethnography. And that is also, of course, one of the main arguments for not conducting research the way that I did, but using more computer-assisted methods where you download and you scrape data, and then you can work with the data beyond the logics of the platform. But since I have my history from below interest with me all the time, I want to try to understand how people who go into these groups, how they deal with it, how they struggle, what happens with them, for them. Yeah.
May I add a little something? Because my point was that, was it so that no one was using this material, for example, to write something, a book?
Mm-hmm.
They were just archived there.
Yeah, they were in a sense.
There was no goal attainment.
Yeah, they were sharing.
They were
sharing.
just sharing
Yeah.
without any goal attainment.
Yeah, and some of them, what's his name, Bertil, who showed me his scanner, he had also put together books of his photos that he had digitized and scanned with the highest setting possible. So he had books for this himself that he showed me as well. But to him, that wasn't enough. He wanted to be part of this digital local heritage community that was this specific Facebook group. And then he had to share it as well, because then he gets recognized, then he gets liked. So there's this, the culture of like and the like economy of Facebook that maybe makes you. I don't use Facebook anymore myself. I have an account so that I can follow some of these groups, but the liking and the recognition that you receive kind of binds you, ties you to the platform, and then you don't look any further. It's just about being liked and being recognized, in a sense. So maybe several others were working on books and stuff behind the scenes, but not that I noticed and know of. Yeah. Mila, I'm sorry, you should go ahead and ask your questions as well.
No, I think this is super interesting discussion, and I actually want to dwell on this messiness because it's super interesting. Because I think that it was really interesting that you both addressed this messiness and I think that kind of like that there is this messy reality, also kind of like non-linear logic, and you also Robin, you pointed out this kind of like superficial in a way and some overtly nostalgic approaches and so on. And I was just thinking that in a way, is this something, is there a kind of like different messiness online? Of course, there is this algorithmic logic that messes up even more. But I was just thinking that if we think about overall kind of like popular memory cultures, of course, they're kind of like the scholarly aim in engaging with the past is maybe to write a book or have kind of like an order or systematism or something like that. But as you, Robin, you also pointed out this recognition as kind of like important like motivation for many people to engage there. And of course, it is important kind of like identity work as well. I have been studying some online content related to fake historical narratives. And so this is a little bit on the side, but I think that there as well, what I recognized in a way, and what I thought as kind of like main motivator for, you know, those people writing those online essays, was that there was this kind of like identity and you know, somehow discussing their or their nation's identities as a kind of like core activity. And as if we think about the ways people usually think, it is not always logical. It is not always, it is messy. And so maybe, yeah, so maybe my question is that, is there, is it possible to say that in a way, this kind of like popular memory culture is inherently messy in a way, and is there a kind of like different type of messiness in the online popular culture on kind of like memory culture? I don't know who, you know, if you want to answer this question, or is it, I don't know, relevant to you at all, but yeah.
I think this is a nice thing for a new research project.
But I
Yeah.
would say that maybe because there is the messiness, if you look at public history, heritage, popular memory, there is a messiness in agency and actorship, because not only professional historians are historians in these realms and in these forums, because everyone can be. I just revisited Raphael Samuel's book Theatres of Memory yesterday, because I was giving a lecture on public history, and I thought about how angry he is in the introduction of that book, which was published in 93, 94 maybe. He's so angry because history as a subject is so zoomed in on and focused on professional historians and what they do. And but he and others have opened up history as a subject, so that we can all now talk about history, people being historians in their everyday life, even when they are amateurs or not professionals. So that's some kind of messiness that is inherent within public history and heritage, I'd say. But then when you get to the online, and depending on where you are online, of course, it's difficult, because at least social media and Facebook that I've looked at, it's not transparent how it works. It's not always transparent who is writing a post, because the account can have a profile picture and a name, but you don't really know who is talking here. And there's a messiness in that people write comments on a post, and then if there are many comments, you won't see the comments in the beginning. So there's a messiness of people not hearing each other and repeating the same thing. So it's very difficult to actually finish an argument, finish a discussion, come to a conclusion. And that also produces some kind of messiness. Yeah, so that some thoughts on the topic of messiness in relation to digital culture. Some of us have also talked about these social media apps as being black holes, where you just put stuff and then it gets like, it just flies off. And one of the interviewees that I talked to, she talked that during the week. I interviewed her on a Friday, and she had spent the whole week trying to organize and thematize wedding photos in one of the Facebook groups. And she had put down so many hours to this, just trying to group all of these wedding photos into a specific album within the group. But then then she did that, and then people could see it on the timeline, and then they went in and liked and commented on a specific one of the photos, and then that was torn out by Facebook and it was put at the top of the timeline, because now this is hot and relevant because someone liked and commented on this individual photo. So she was pretty upset that the whole week's work that she had conducted in the group were like nullified as soon as other people interacted with what she had done. So that, yeah, that's another point on messiness.
Oh yeah, so it seems that social media creates additional messiness and also kind of like dysfunctional conversations in a way, if I'm reading you right. Yeah, so just before I continue with my next question, so I would like to tell to everybody that if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to either raise your hand or you can also write a comment in the chat. So, you know, it's this is open for everybody, this discussion. Okay, so moving on forward from this messiness, I was thinking that perhaps, you know, moving towards maybe some more organized manner of scholarly conversations, although I'm not sure if they are always that orderly. But it was interesting that you, in a way, you both use different concepts, and Robin, you pointed out this. So so you, Robin, you were using this digital memory practices as a kind of like your favorite term, and then Anna, you were talking about this these digital cultural heritage communities. So are they the same? Are we talking about the same things, or is there a slight difference between these? How do you see it? I don't know. Anna, do you want to begin, or Robin?
Maybe I begin. I think that they differ from each other because Robin is looking at the practices on quite individual level, more interested in how the cultural heritage community keeps the heritage process going on. So I'm not so eagerly looking at what an individual does in the process. Maybe that's the difference. But we are talking about the same activity from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think probably digital cultural heritage, or just the concept of cultural heritage, is broader, and it includes, of course, digital practices and digital memory practices. But with the concept of digital memory practices, I've been zooming in on like these practices from below, like how individuals use and engage with these engage in these groups, and that is, of course, that could be said to be part of digital cultural heritage, but they're not really the same thing. And I also, one of my main points is that I've tried to steer away from focusing too much on digital memory practice and instead talk about and focus on hybrid memory practice to understand how these connect to offline practices as well, which I found that really answered some of the disenchantment, like this post-digital disenchantment that I had after my first ethnographic fieldwork. That hybrid perspective really made me understand why these people actually spend so many hours on Facebook and trying to locate data, because it becomes meaningful to them, but not in a way that you see when you just study the online interactions, because it becomes meaningful to them in several other ways. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
I
I can see that. Yes, I think that
it was-
Hannu, sorry, Anna, did you want to continue or?
Yeah, a
Yes,
very
please.
small comment, because I was very glad to hear you, Robin, use the history from below. I haven't heard it for a while. It's an EP Thompson, if I remember correctly. And I meant exactly same kind of activity when I was talking about the bottom-up activity.
Yeah, okay, good. So now I think that Hannu had his hand first, and then after Hannu we have Hanna Schein-Meyer and then Petri Paju. But Hannu, please go ahead first.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if I have anything substantial to add, but about the conceptual difference, I think there are different perspectives on similar issues, and I guess the Facebook groups could also be analyzed as heritage communities. And on the other hand, many of the heritage communities are also hybrid kind of entities that, for example, Demoskin is an example of that. So there are connection points, but I was actually wondering that perhaps there's something in the concept of digital that emphasizes binarities or dualism between analog and digital. Since if I view this from the point of view of media history, I think it's a common understanding that they are not like either or issues, but they are always hybrid, that old media doesn't replace new media, but they intertwine, there are entanglements of different layers, and probably digitality is somehow overemphasized by the binarity. And I think these both talks are refreshing in that sense that they somehow also creates like social life around the skeleton, which is which is needed. And I was also listening to Robin, thinking about us as historians. I think we are also always hybrid figures. we use all possible methods that can be used. But I also met many collectors who are interesting figures in historical field, and I know many non-digital collectors that consciously refuse of like using digital tools in their work, and I think it will be interesting to study those different practices of exercising history as a hobby or profession. I think there are many variations, and I think that's highly interesting. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I comment?
Yeah,
Yes.
there was no question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I've written it down with a question mark after it, so it becomes a question. You're absolutely right that like using the concept and the term digital, it immediately produces this binary of digital and analog, and that's problematic. And yeah, we have a book coming out on hybrid memory, an edited volume that hopefully coming out next year. It has been accepted, but we have a lot of work with it still. And one of the things that we struggle with when writing the introductory chapter there is that talking about hybrid memory and hybrid memory practices without repeatedly referring to binaries between digital and analog and online and offline. It is difficult because that's the language that we have at the moment, but that's also a point with the concept of post-digital and also hybrid and hybridity, in this sense that I've talked about it as a way to try to bridge these two, bridge the binaries, and to be able to not focus in on only digitality or the analog, but looking at like the in-between and how they connect to each other repeatedly and reroute each other, because it is very much intertwined. If we were to keep a diary on what is analog and what is digital for us during working day, that would be very difficult. There is, of course, like this physical material pen, and then there is the keyboard, but those are like, I use them simultaneously all the time. So that's one point that we try to make in this volume on hybrid memory. And also want to comment or say something about this refusing digital tools, because I wrote my PhD dissertation on a retroculture, a contemporary retroculture, where the contemporary mods reenacting, in a sense, or living the 1960s and the original mod culture, subculture scene. They refuse digital tools, at least when they are in front of an audience or in front of other people. They use vinyl record players. They focus on scooters being made of a specific material, clothes and garments being made of a specific material, and refuses these digital tools. And that becomes like part of some kind of contemporary retro culture as well, which is also very interesting. How do you refuse digitality? Can you refuse digitality? In Sweden, it is very difficult to exist without some kind of digital existence, because you need it to be a member of society at the moment. But yeah, that was just a short comment on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely, yes. Anna, do you want to reflect on this, or shall we continue with the next question?
I think Hannu has there an interesting question, so let's continue.
Yes, okay. So Hanna Shane-Meyer, do you want to read this yourself, or shall I do that?
We can do it either way.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, I wanted to thank you. It was very interesting, both of the presentations. And I wanted to ask if you know if there have been any attempts to create alternative public platforms for digital cultural heritage communities by libraries or universities or museums, perhaps. And are there any success stories, or is it all that what you mentioned, that Facebook is so comfortable and you just click on an app and it's there, and it's very hard for some kind of a public organization to create an alternative, even if it would solve the issues that you mentioned concerning the algorithms and the other things?
excellent question.
Yes.
Who wants to? Yes, Anna. Yes,
I
you can start.
because I think this was wonderful question, because I was suddenly thinking about all the practices, such as historical societies and discussant groups that were gathering, for example, every Tuesday in some museum or in libraries. And I think this traditional platform still exists, this kind of societies. Maybe we should have more.
Thanks.
And I would like to, yes, it's a very, very good question about creating alternative public platforms, because that's an aspect that is opened up by digital technology, by the internet as well. Anyone can go online and create a website and thereby start to build a platform for preserving and collecting specific memories that is then beyond any algorithms of a social media platform, that you can store and create specific orders and sort it. So that's like of course, like this goes back to the 1990s, like the democratic potential of the internet. But internet is not very democratic because it's very difficult to get some kind of visibility for the web page that you've built. Some of the interviewees that I talked to, they thought about creating a website, a web page for the group content and for their own pictures and memories instead of using Facebook. But then they were worried that people wouldn't find these on other alternative online platforms. So there's this difficult problem in visibility when it comes to the internet. Of course, you can exist online without anyone ever entering your page, but do you then exist? That becomes some kind of philosophical question almost. Maybe it's too late for that, but there are also success stories. I know of a few in Sweden. There's one archive that started out as a solidly digital archive and a from below approach, which is called Black Archives Sweden, which collects the memories and stories and narratives of Black people in Sweden. And they have been successful, and they've also opened up here in Malmö. They've opened up like a physical space as well, where they have workshops, where they have talks, where they have open lectures and readings. So that's one. And I know of a couple of other where when it comes to more like critical perspectives on cultural heritage and history, which connects to like the experiences of Black people, the experiences of gay people, and intersectional issues. They've been able to build platforms online that have then been carried out as well in now I repeat the binary again, but in offline spaces as well. So that's just some. So you can be successful, of course, and there should be maybe more initiatives like that. But there are already very many initiatives to open up new platforms on this. I hope that answers the question somewhat.
Okay, thank you. Next in line we have Petri Paju. Petri, would you like to ask your question? Yes.
Yes, thanks. Well. Okay, I'll try to make a question or something. Yeah, I was just wondering. I was thinking, listening to your talk, wonderful talk. I was thinking about this group of former IT professionals. Remembering the history of IT in Finland, and sharing their memories of different computers and what they did with this and that machine or software, and what kind of memories they have related to those. And I was kind of lucky to be sort of in there from the start when they started sharing these memories, and it's been interesting to follow that up. And it's there are many similarities with what you were talking about. But there were also you also mentioned some of these activists or these people you'll be interviewing having contacts with museums or maybe archives or something locally. So there are these kind of links to these kind of more official memory organizations. And also in our case, in this IT history group, there is this kind of museum project that is involved. They've been kind of getting something out of that and advertising themselves in that group. So there are these connections to these more like official organizations. So maybe they would have an interest in doing somehow getting this group out of Facebook at some point or something, or you may about this earlier thing. So this connection is interesting, I think, if you want to talk about that a little bit. And then also I was thinking about this kind of life circle or this kind of what's it in English, elinkaari. I mean, you have this. It seems that for example, this group that I've been following, it's slowing down or it's not that active anymore. So it seems to be that they don't go on forever, perhaps, or it depends. It might be that they kind of slow down or kind of become these kind of very, very quiet places. And what happens then? Have you noticed this kind of cycles?
Can I go?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have noticed those cycles, and I've also noticed that sometimes, not in the groups that I've actually properly studied in my research, but there are some groups that get split into different groups because they fight with each other because they don't like some of the content that some produces, and so there's a lot of things happening, and I think that it's for me as a researcher, it has been a methodological problem, because when I started my postdoc project, I was very afraid I was going to start to follow a group that would end up not existing by the end of the year that I was doing my research. So I tried to find groups that had been going on for several years and that had like at least 1,000 members and more. And I think maybe a group of former IT professionals is a smaller group. I don't know how many former IT professionals have joined that group.
Quite a few. I don't remember now, but hundreds. I mean,
hundreds, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that me selecting groups that with at least 1,000 members, and some of the groups they had 12,000 members when I started, and then they had 15,000 members when I ended the fieldwork, because some of them grew very rapidly. That of course shapes what I see and how these particular groups function. So when I talked about this instantification of memories and the speed and the hurriedness, it's of course based on that there's so many people sharing things in these groups and there's so many new posts each day. But if I had entered into a smaller group with, say, 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, maybe the dynamics would have been different within the group. So that's just one thought that came to mind when you were taking this example, and also the connection between unofficial memory groups, in this case on Facebook, and then official institutions. I saw several examples of that where there were accounts, like a museum having a Facebook account and also commenting and also making posts in a couple of the groups, different museum accounts. And also when I did interviews with these people, a couple of them said that they had been contacted by local museums, local library, because they wanted to use their pictures that they had shared in the groups. One of the local history groups that I looked at and made an interview with one of the members of, had some kind of anniversary. The city had been in existence for 500 years or 200 years or something like that. And then the city had contacted him and asked, can we use a couple of your photos from the early 1900s and post it on like large billboards and make it part of the local heritage scene during this year that we have our anniversary. So there are these connections. It would be very interesting to look further into them, because I've only touched on them when they have been mentioned and when they have been popping up in the flow of content on Facebook. But that's absolutely something to look into further, I'd say.
Yeah, thanks. Very interesting.
Small question to you, Petri. You remind me of the very successful cultural heritage community. I mean, of course, the community behind the Tampere Pelimuseum, Tampere Museum of Games. They have very clear goal attainment. They wanted to have a museum, and they got it. My question to you is that this, I think this IT history group is involved with same persons somehow, and are you going to set as clear goal attainment as they did when they tried to get the game museum?
Sorry, what was there a question for me? Or...
Yeah. I'm asking you, how are you going to improve this idea of IT museum?
Well, you know, they have this museum project in Jyväskylä for a long time, or it's a museum in a way. But you know, they have a very real problem with all the analog machines. You know, they are huge. This is you know, like early computing. So they have these huge machines, and you know, building a museum with all that material stuff has proven to be really difficult. So in this sense, you know, the digital world is much easier.
Material.
It's also material, but it's much easier than, you know, building a museum with these, you know, machines that weigh tons, and you know, need very kind of material places to be preserved that cost money. So I mean, a lot of money. So yeah, so there you have also have this. Well, the digital and the material analog.
Okay, I also heard about the idea of Linux cultural heritage, and I have heard about the group that is trying to get established a Linux network. Have you heard about that?
I haven't, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many good ideas for museums and you know, communities and so on. The next question goes to Pekka Salosaari.
Okay, just what Petri came up with, this idea of connection between the official institutions and the groups. I think on a conceptual level, there is also this concept of crowdsourcing, which means that the institution benefits from this this group and the heritage it shares within itself. For example, I used to work for the Finnish Broadcasting Company, and there is a huge archive of radio plays, and there was a kind of a production of reissuing them, and in order to choose the interesting radio plays as far as the audience was concerned, they used a Facebook group of old radio plays where people were discussing about what radio play they would like to hear next. And this is kind of you could call it crowdsourcing, or perhaps some platforms use that crowdsourcing as producing metadata for databases. And for example, record collectors are using Discogs for getting the metadata from the audience. So that's a two-way kind of movement where as far as the benefits go, I would say.
Yes, excellent. So do you want to comment on this somehow, Robin or Anna?
I just think it sounded interesting and well thought.
I remember that behind the Tampere Game Museum there was a huge crowdsourcing which was very successful.
Okay, I see that unfortunately our time is up now. I really want to thank you both, Anna and Robin, and all the participants and discussions. I think this has been a wonderful afternoon and super interesting talks and interesting ideas. So thank you so much, and have a nice evening then.
Thank you. And it's been a
Bye.
pleasure not talking about generative AI today.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
For a change.
Something else. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.